Hey guys, it's Valeria Absinthe for another video. Hooray! So I figured that for today I will do a kind of like baby bat tips video thing. There's already so many of those out there, but I figured I'd give my take and everything, and honestly, take from it what you will. This is just what I think will be helpful for some people. In terms of the goth subculture, I personally am essentially self-taught. I'm kind of self-taught in almost everything. From me drawing and my makeup and all that kind of stuff, I mostly learned by myself through looking at like tutorials or guides or whatever the case may be. And in some cases, actually reading. Yay! Sorry. I figured I'd do some self-depreciating humor there because I'm not the best at reading and sometimes it shows. So, anyway, yeah, we do have a certain issue in the subculture, I guess, that some baby bats, they get interested in it, they start kind of immersing themselves in, but they kind of jump too headstrong too fast and everything, and then have some people, like, immediately like, dive at them and be like, how dare you, you aren't goth, you're a poser, and na-na-na, and then they're just like, well, okay, you guys are a bunch of jerks, I'm leaving, goodbye. So, I want to try and avoid that. So, hopefully this will help you guys. If not, very sorry. But my intent is legitimately to help get people interested in the subculture and to understand it and so on. I've actually tried recording this video a ridiculous amount of times. I kept becoming too much of a stuttering mess. I kept forgetting what I needed to say and so on. So I've actually compiled very brief points here. I'll elaborate on a couple details. This video will not be a comprehensive history of the goth subculture. Other people have already done that. I'm not going to. I mean, if you guys want me to, let me know in the comments and I will, but as of right now, I don't see a point, so I won't. First point, research the history. There's more to it than just looking like this and listening to the music and everything. The music is the cornerstone of the subculture. It is the origin. It is the most important detail to know of. The subculture started in the late 70s, early 80s, and it drew inspiration from points way earlier than that, like 15th century Gothic architecture and the Gothic literature, like Bram Stoker's Dracula, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and so on. By the way, I've never read Frankenstein. I'm a bad goth. Anyway, yeah, there's so much more to it than just knowing a couple of the goth bands and dressing like this. I can't even dress like this at work. Well, I mean, I can do my hair and makeup like this because no one can actually tell me no. And the only reason I can get away with it is because I work overnight, so I work in a position where customers really never see me anyway, so hooray! But some people can't do that, but anyway. Tip number 2, I've already briefly went into it. Immerse yourself into the music. There is so much out there. Goth music is a genre of music in itself, but there are subgenres underneath. There is goth rock, which was the OG music, so like Susie and the Banshees, The Cure, Bauhaus, Sisters of Mercy, that stuff. But then there's also like new wave, and there's some importance in knowing about industrial music to a degree. It wasn't really... It is kind of sort of a subgenre of goth music, but it was also kind of its own thing back in the day. And there's so much more to it, and obviously it helps to actually like some of that music. You don't have to like every single song that a certain band has ever released or whatever. It's impossible. And you don't have to like just one subgenre of music. Open your mind and just explore all of it, and you'll find like your little collection of goth music that you like, and we can move on from there. Be respectful and don't be an elitist. We have a lot of problems, even within the subculture, where a lot of people are just mean and belittling and say that you have to do this certain thing, or, oh, if you're goth, does that mean that you're a Satanist, and all this other kind of stuff. Be respectful about it and politely educate them. If they're unwilling to learn, just move on, whatever. For the elitist people that say, oh, well, if you don't look like it's Black Friday, then you're not a goth person. It's preposterous. Like, it's unfortunate that people within our own subculture say that you have to look and act a certain way to actually qualify as a goth person when that's not the point. But yeah, just be respectful to them and everything, even if they're not being it to you. But if they start getting too hostile or whatever, block them and move on, or just walk away if it's in person. If it becomes genuinely threatening to your life, though, call the police. This is an actual thing to be worried about if that's how far it goes. But if it's just a case of someone just being a bit of a douchebag and everything, be polite and everything, and if they're not gonna stop being that way, just leave. Don't panic about perfection. You do not need to worry about having the most fantastic hair and crazy colors and super awesome makeup and big elaborate outfits or anything. It doesn't matter. Like, that stuff, if you don't know how to do that yet, honestly, you're not going to be like super judged by that. Don't mind what just happened there. That's my cat. It's not a ghost. Okay, now that she's done being in there. But yeah, like, you don't have to be like super ooky spooky right off the bat. Like, if you can't do it, like, let's say you can't afford the crazy elaborate outfits or whatever the case may be, you don't have to. That's really all there is to it. If you're planning to look the part, ease into it. Do not go full force overnight. It will be too noticeable. It'll look more like a rebellious teen thing, and we don't want to do that. That is like one legitimate goth stereotype, and I hate it. Like, just start off, like, if you do want to like genuinely look the part and look super ooky spooky or whatever, which is perfectly fine. If that's the aesthetic you want to go for, it's fine, but take it slowly. As an example, a good way to start is, like, maybe start darkening the clothing you wear. Like, maybe, like, if you wear light colors and everything, to start going for, like, darker colors next, and then transition to full black. If you want to go right into black clothing, it's fine, but baby steps and everything, just try not to be too pretentious about it. With makeup, if you're worried about people immediately thinking that going out, like, you look normal, and then look like this the next day, people are going to notice, and they're going to be like, well, what are you doing? Is this like a costume kind of thing? You don't want to do that. So, like, maybe like a little bit of a black eyeliner on the waterline, or if you want to be super subtle and also have a super tough time, in my personal case, tight line, which is actually watering the upper waterline. That'll give the illusion of, like, a darker look to your eyes, but not be, like, bam in your face. I actually personally struggle with tight lining myself. I can do it, but I would have to do that before I do any other part of my look, because my eyes water like you wouldn't believe. Which, by the way, is exactly what happened with my eyes when I used to do my waterline. Now that my eyes are used to me being that close, that's not a problem, but yeah, so just ease in. Don't worry about being, like, super dramatic right off the bat. It will do you no favors to do that. This one is actually one I can't even follow myself because of where I live, but if you can, go to goth events. See if there's goth events in your town or whatever, and visit them. See all the different people that are there, and just marvel at what we are. Again, I personally cannot follow this advice myself, because with the area that I live in, there's not that many people that do this. At least not many that I've seen. I also don't actually explore my city as much. I can't, usually. I can't do that much traveling, and I don't drive. I can't drive. I would be unsafe on the road. I do not want to risk someone's life for the sake of me getting a driver's license. But anyway, this one's gonna be a little bit tricky for me to say. Try not to give in to, like, literally every goth stereotype that's out there. you giving into some of it is unfortunately going to be inevitable, because goth people tend to represent at least one stereotype and everything, but which one you represent kind of varies from person to person. Maybe represent multiple. There's some people that also try to represent the stereotypes for the sake of like shock value and causing a scene and having mainstream people further misconstrue what kind of people we are, which is unfortunate, so please don't give in to that kind of thing. Just don't. Don't be too try-hardy about being goth and everything. It will have the opposite effect of what you're thinking. Like, don't go to someone and be like, ha, I know about this one band and I know better than you, or whatever the case may be. If you're playing the elitist card, or you're thinking, oh, well, I can dress like this and therefore I look better than you as a goth, or so on and so forth, you're going to turn yourself into an elitist and a poser, and we don't want to do that. You don't need to actually do a whole bunch of different things to be goth. Like, you don't have to constantly look like this every single day. Like, maybe one day you just want to wear a t-shirt and jeans and just go shop for some groceries. You don't have to be decked out all the time. I mean, if you want to, like, if you genuinely want to do that, nobody's here to stop you, but if you're doing it just for the sake of getting attention, getting some kind of shock value or whatever, it's not really worth it. I guess the other thing that is kind of more important than virtually everything else that I've said is, well, I mean, aside from researching the history and knowing the music, that stuff is definitely super important. Be yourself. Do not be afraid to be yourself. We have a world filled with things to be passionate about. Maybe you like kids' movies. Maybe you like collecting stuffed animals or dolls or whatever. I'm currently listing everything about myself. It's fine not to be into every single goth thing all the time. If you have certain like quirks that are technically not goth and you're talking with people about that, don't be afraid to show that off. People will respect you all the more for it. If they don't respect you for that and they're just like, oh, well, that's not goth, therefore you're not goth, ditch those people. You do not need those as friends. We don't need people like that in our lives anyway. So if there's people that are trying to gatekeep how you should do things anyway, they're not really worth it. And I have dealt with people kind of like that. I'm allowed to be my own person. I'm allowed to have my own identity. And that's just really how it is. So, I think that's really all I have to say about this. There's so many sources you can look at for like research purposes and everything. There is the Gothic Charm School by Jillian Venters. She refers to herself as the lady with the mouth and talks about herself in the third person. It's actually kind of amusing. I love it. There's the Goth Bible, which I actually recently ordered. I haven't checked it out myself, but I will eventually and probably talk about it. And there is so much that you can look into for that and to learn the history of the subculture. Even if you want to learn the stuff farther back than what I told you, there's all that. You can talk with some people in the subculture and see what their views are on certain things. There's some people that do kind of disagree a little bit as to like what you need to know in the subculture, what you need to like and everything, and take into account what they're saying. But if it doesn't work for you, don't take it into heart. With exceptions, of course. Like there's one person, I don't remember her name right now, but there was one person that made a video about this stuff, and she was trying to make it seem as if you can pick and choose certain elements of the subculture and still be goth, and it's like, technically you cannot. You can pick and choose what kind of goth music you like, but you can't pick and choose whether or not you listen to it. If you're not into any of the goth music, then you can't really technically be goth, in a sense. Which I know sounds kind of counterintuitive to everything I just said, but that's how our subculture began. That's kind of our only real rule. You kind of have to know a bit about the music and like at least some of it. We're not expecting you to like all of it, but to at least know some of it would be ideal. So hopefully you guys like the video. If you do, like, comment, whatever. If you want to see more of this content, subscribe, hit the bell to make sure that you actually get notified, and I will see you guys later.